Hello, my name is Dave, and today I'd like to talk about doing maintenance on a VB36 lathe. Now the VB has some items that have to be taken care of on a regular basis. Most other lathes, about the only thing you're going to take care of is keeping your bedways clean and free of rust and waxing them from time to time. But a VB needs to have you grease your thrust bearings. You need to check your oil on a regular basis. You need to keep this piece clean with the cork clean, the bedway clean. You need to keep the bedways clean up here. Just some standard maintenance. Nothing is hard. Today we're going to talk about two particular things: greasing your thrust bearings and checking the oil in your oil cups. Alright, so on the thrust bearings, they're located right here next to the hand wheel. And the second one is just inside the transmission cabinet here, next to the upper pulley on the left. Not easy to get to by any means, but I'll show you how to get around that and make the best of it, alright? When do you need to do this? It's important to understand the manual says 50 to 100 hours of use. Now I believe when you're doing a lot of high-speed turning, say between centers turning, you're probably going to end up greasing your bearings a little sooner. Now I've had my lathe for about 3.5 years, I believe, and I used to grease mine once a month. I made it a calendar type of thing. At the beginning of each month I would grease the lathe. But then after I retired, I was able to be out here in the shop turning on a very, very regular basis. Good for me, right? So I realized that 50 hours comes around pretty darn quick. So I now grease my bearings twice a month, in the middle of the month and the beginning of the month. Again, not a hard job. Total time is about 10 minutes. So I'm going to show you how to do those things. I'm going to show you what tools that you need, how to do it, a couple of tricks, some demonstrations of what it looks like, of course, and then we'll wrap it all up. All right, let's reset the camera and we'll be right back. Thanks. All right, let's take a minute and look at the tools we need. I mentioned it was really simple. You need a roll of paper towels. I like to clean everything before I start, particularly around the nipple. That way you can see any grease that you have to remove on the second shot. This is the oil we get for the VB36 here in America. Of course, it comes from Craft Supplies USA. I use a scratch owl. Right in the center of the nipple there's a little pin. The one on the inside on mine gets a little sticky, and more than once I have put my grease in there and the grease didn't go in the nipple at all, and it simply went all over. So before I start, I always take the scratch awl and just move that little ball to make sure that it's open. Then the last thing you need, of course, is a grease gun. Lots of different models out there. You need high temperature grease. Don't just grab something you've got in your shop. You definitely need high temperature grease. The other thing I do is I always make sure this is all clean and dry. When you're working inside that cabinet and your fingers are struggling to get the way they would need to be, when you have that clean and dry, you can turn it certainly a lot easier. So all simple steps. So 1, 2, 3, 4 simple tools and we're ready to go. So let me again reposition the camera and I'll show you what we need to do. Okay, doke? Thanks. Alright, so this is the grease nipple just to the right of the hand wheel. You can see it's easy to get to. The other one is not easy to get to. And I hope you can also see to the right of the nipple there is a very fine ribbon of grease, a little black grease. So that is your older grease. A little bit ago I went ahead and videotaped how to do this process, and that is the result of one pump. So one pump of grease is going to create that very, very fine ribbon on the outside edge of that bushing. So that's all you're looking for. If you were to keep pumping and pumping, 2, 3, 4 pumps, you would get a lot of grease out of there, but you would also push grease into areas of that assembly that it should not go into. So just remember, one pump once a month, one pump twice a month, but just one pump will do the job. Okay, so we're going to move on now to the seal and the nipple on the inside of the cabinet. Well, for the nipple on the inside, it's to the left side of the large wheel, and I think it's important that you clean it all first. One of the things I like to do is make sure that the little valve moves, so I use a scratch awl to push it in and out. Many times as I've gone to grease it, the grease goes everywhere but in the nipple, and by making sure that that releases. Now the other thing to do is put it in a position where when you put the grease gun on there, that you can screw it on, and sometimes it's easier to rotate it a little bit downward so that you get a little more room for your hand. It's quite tight in there. I usually bring my left hand in through the hand wheel side, just below or just above the motor, and then use my right hand and the gun to twist and turn until it's tight. And then again, it is just one pull of the gun and the grease will pop out the sides of the seals. You only want to see just a little bit popping out. You don't want to keep pumping it so more and more comes out. You run a chance of over greasing and causing some other situations. So again, after you put it on there, you want to go ahead and clean everything up, because what you don't want to have happen is that any grease contaminates your belts and your belts start to break down quicker. As it is, they're going to last you, should be your entire lifetime, but it can be quite challenging to change them. Not that bad, but it's quite the job. Okay, so that should do it. There's just not enough room to video and show you hooking everything up right here between my hands and my body. There's no way to get a camera in there. So I'm going to go ahead and finish it up right now. Alright, so once you're attached, hold it firmly, and just one squeeze should do it. And I'm not sure if you can see the grease come up between the seals right there. And that is all you need. So that seal is ready. And all you got to do after that is take this off, clean it up, and you're good. That's it right there. I would like to clean all the grease out. What it does is push out the old grease. That's all we got to do. Alright, to get to the inside nipple, it's a simple process. Open the cabinet door. I believe it's the best thing to do is go ahead and remove this belt, get it out of your way. It's going to give you just that little bit extra room that you may need for your hands. We're all different sizes. Just release the belt and put it to one side. So that grease fitting is on the inside through here. So you're going to use your grease gun, get your hands in here, and the way I've learned to do it is to open the back door, put my left hand through, use my right hand tighten the grease gun onto the nipple. It also works to rotate the wheel down a little bit, so that you got to find your space where your hands fit in there, because it's just that tight. The other thing I should mention is it's best, I believe, to clean everything very well before you start. Then you can see where you're going. It's not such a messy job. Also, any grease that's in here, if it gets on your belts, it will dry out your belts and ruin your belts. So I'll show you in the next setup how to get inside the cabinet and how to grease that. And again, it's still just one pump of grease, okay? Okay, one more way to get a little more room inside the cabinet while you're working is to loosen the belt, get the belt out of the way, and then reverse it, lower the drive wheel, and that gives you just a little more room in there. But it makes a difference. If you're a big guy with big hands, it might be the solution to your problem. So let's move on. All right, and there we have it. So we've greased our bearings. Both thrust bearings are good for another 100 hours, and we're in good shape. Now the next thing to cover are the reservoir cups for the main bearings. We spoke of those a few minutes ago. Let me set the camera up and I can show you exactly what's what. This is a step that takes no time at all. So give me just a second, I'll move the camera in close and we'll take a look. Okay, be right back. All right, here's an example of one of our oil cups. So what we're talking about as far as keeping the oil in here, you have this small tube right here that comes up and the wick comes out. So you want your oil level to be within 3/8 of an inch of the top of the tube. You don't want the oil coming up over the top of the tube. It should just be below the tube. So you can see it doesn't take anything but a couple of drops every once in a while. You can see also that no matter how hard you try, you're going to get sawdust around. So it is a good idea to, on a regular routine, to clean these cups in the area that they sit. No sense in getting contaminants in here, right? So that's as easy as it gets. Let's move on. Well, all right, that about wraps it up. We've covered quite a bit in monthly maintenance. The only things we didn't talk about were taking care of your bedways. We know they have to be done. I figured you didn't need me to show you how to do that. A little steel wool, a little oil, you're set. Then you have the bed bar. This is a very, very heavy piece. I would suggest if you have a friend close by, get some help lifting it out of here. One person can, but it is really heavy. And the maintenance on it is simple. You're going to just lift this cap straight up and off. There are no screws or bolts or anything. Vacuum it out, clean it up. That's all there is to it. Down on this end, you've got the tightening screw. Just a little bit of oil on there. Run it through back and forth. You're set. The underside is a very thick piece of nylon, and all you're looking to do is clean off anything that's adhered to it. You know, tar, pitch, anything like that. And I promise that once it's all clean again and you can turn the screw real easy again, it moves very, very nicely inside the lathe. So the other we covered was taking care of your thrust bearings. We greased them. That was nice. Your main bearings, checking the reservoirs for oil and how much. So that worked out well. And learning little bits and pieces on a way to get inside the cabinet successfully. So that's about it. So monthly maintenance done. All in all, probably take 10-15 minutes. Easy to do. Get yourself set up on a schedule. Pay attention to the amount of time you're running your machine, and I think you'll do just fine. So I'd like to tell you thank you very much. Keep turning around. That's always fun and a good thing to do. And I really appreciate you tuning in and checking out the channel. Thank you very much. Have a good day.